Bless me, Father, for I have sinned. It's been a few years since my last confession.
In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Yes, I remember you, Mr. Scafali. How can I help you?
Well, Father, I did some very bad things. I sent a few men to kill my betting advisor, Dave. I also killed 2 other people, one as a favor, and another for not returning my money from a bet on the Knicks game.
Jake, you told me the last time you saw me that you were going to retire from this life and give your life to the Father.
I know, Father, and I'm gonna have to retire now. The FBI is right on my ass, I could be doing big time, and I might even have to rat and go into the witness protection program to save my own ass.
I warned you, Jake.
Listen, I was the biggest fucking degenerate gambler in the country. Excuse my language, Father, but it wasn't easy for me to leave the life. I had everything I ever wanted, the cars, the jewelry, the women, and now I gotta play a household dad and watch my kids grow up to be bastards because society is so soft and sensitive. Listen, I don't even know why I'm here. My wife is an ungrateful pain in my ass, and I can't even watch the Knicks game without her bitching about how I sit around and do nothing all day. That's what retired people do.
You must pray more. God will forgive you. Tell me, what are some things that make you happy? I assume sports are one of the things that give you peace.
When you're a Knicks fan, there's nothing to be happy about. I'm from Bensonhurst, Brooklyn, and the Knicks have been garbage for the longest time, for as long as I can remember. I'm still not over that finals back in '99. The Knicks should have gave Pat Ridley what he wanted back in 1995. He wanted to control the personnel. This is what doomed the Knicks. He would have ended the Knicks title drought because he knows how to find talent. It's good to gamble if you're not the New York Knicks.
See, this is what the Knicks should have been today. A winning franchise with all the stars playing on the court and in the crowd cheering. After all, the Knicks are the 3rd most valuable franchise in sports behind the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Yankees. Oh, I'm sorry. Where's my manners at? This is your boy Real Lil, and ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another chapter in my Get to Gamble series. You can check out my 5 previous episodes in the series by clicking the link in the description box below. We all know the Knicks to be this dumpster fire of an organization for decades. But I want to revisit the gamble the Knicks made by trading away the unicorn Kristaps Porzingis to the Mavericks, freeing up cap space to sign 2 marquee free agents that never came. If this gamble had worked, it would have brought the Knicks back to the promised land of relevance, but instead it brought them back to a land that's prevalent, which is a dumpster fire. This scenario is what made me come up with the idea of the series in the first place.
I mean, we literally traded the unicorn out for some picks, which is a gamble, which I think we, in time will tell if that will work out or not. It's basically like going to Vegas, you're gambling, and when you go to Vegas, it's either you coming home rich or you coming home with no clothes on. And that's what the Knicks is doing. They know they either coming back rich with KD and Kyrie through free agency 2019, or they're going to be the laughing stock of the league in sports history.
Ladies and gentlemen, sometimes it's good to gamble and go to Vegas. Just make sure you return home with all your clothes on.
The 3rd pick goes to the New York Knicks.
Damn it! Damn it!
I'm hurt. I'll be honest with you, I'm hurt.
It's my will to win.
really thought that we had that first pick coming our way.
I'm going to be able to do it.
I was excited for it. I think everybody here was excited for it. I mean, they can still move with the third pick, but everybody had the first pick on their minds.
I cannot believe what just happened. How does the team with the highest odds of the bottom four, still available, standing on that stage, not get the number one pick? It makes no sense.
I can't believe it. We were supposed to get AD. Now we can't even get a trade for them.
The dream of Zion doing windmill dunks at the Garden. It's over.
When it was revealed that the Knicks got the number 3 pick in the draft, my heart broke. And still to this day, I think about what could have been. I legit stared at the TV screen for 30 minutes without moving a muscle because I knew this was the only hope we had to change our organization anytime soon. Zion to the Knicks was always the talk of sports media. Zion Williamson was the biggest NBA prospect coming out of college since LeBron James. It was thought that being able to draft Zion would make our team a preferred free agency destination for guys like Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. The Knicks had luck before having the number 1 overall pick back in 1985 when they drafted Patrick Ewing. There was a big conspiracy back then that then Commissioner David Stern rigged the NBA lottery by putting the envelope with the Knicks logo inside it. This way the Knicks would get the first pick and with it, select Patrick Ewing.
About 6 turns, I think.
The team whose logo is in this envelope will have the first pick in the NBA draft.
As you can imagine, this is a New York crowd.
Congratulations.
Ewing was known as a once-in-a-decade talent who would have changed the course of a franchise. He was very similar to how big of a prospect Zion Williamson was without social media. However, those conspiracies were not proven, and with the conspiracy of this upcoming lottery that passed potentially being rigged, the NBA shot that down by making some changes to the rules of the NBA lottery. This allowed the bottom 3 teams to have an equal 14% chance of winning the lottery and winning the top pick, and increased the number of teams selected in the lottery from 3 to 4. These changes were made to eliminate teams from tanking in order to get the best player out of the draft. These changes are an overlooked part on why the Knicks striked out and got the number 3 pick, which forced them to draft R.J. Barrett, missing out on franchise changes like Zion and Ja Morant. Kevin Durant was linked to the New York Knicks all year, and there were even billboards around the city to attract him to the franchise. The Knicks were the betting odds favorite to sign Kevin Durant at plus 120, which is the equivalent of a 45% chance. However, the Knicks needed to clear up some space to bring in Kevin Durant and his buddy Kyrie Irving. Kristaps Porzingis and his brother, who is an agent, met with the front office to voice their frustrations with the direction of the franchise. That ended up being the perfect opportunity for the Knicks to trade Porzingis to the Mavericks for 2 first-round picks and Dennis Smith Jr. After hearing about this trade, I initially thought the Knicks might have known something I ain't know. I said on the podcast, the only way the Knicks would win this trade was the success they had attracting 2 marquee free agents that summer. They got rid of Tim Hardaway's contract, Courtney Lee's, Wesley Matthews, and DeAndre Jordan's, freeing up $26.4 million in cap space. The talk of Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving became the hot topic of sports radio. Bill Simmons told Mike Francesca on WFAN to bet the house on Kevin Durant signing with the Knicks. First Take host Stephen A. Smith said, "From everything I've heard, there's a 95% chance KD and Kyrie Irving comes to New York." At the time, we had to figure Kevin Durant was intrigued by the Knicks because of all the love he got when he dropped 66 points in a pickup game at Harlem's iconic Rucker Park. Durant said, "I wanted to play in Rucker Park my whole life." Well, the Mecca, MSG, is more iconic than Rucker, so we had to assume Kevin Durant would have wanted to play for the Knicks. Fast forward a bit, and the Knicks ended up missing out on Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving, who ended up going across the bridge and signing with the Brooklyn Nets. Instead of Kevin Durant coming to the Knicks, he threw shots at the Knicks on Hot 97.
Knicks. Well, I seen the Knicks in the finals, but kids coming up after me didn't see that. So that whole brand of the Knicks to them is not as cool as, let's say, the Golden State Warriors or even the Lakers or the Nets now. You know what I'm saying? It's like the cool thing right now is not the Knicks.
The Knicks also ended up missing on the other quality free agents that was available during that free agent period. The big gamble had failed, but this wasn't uncharted territory for the Knicks, who have a habit of making an ass out of themselves over the years. The Knicks had the NBA's worst contract with Amari Stoudemire, an injury-prone athlete, which they gave 6-year, $100 million contract. The Knicks also gave Allen Houston a 3-year, $65 million deal too. This was one of the Knicks' worst gambles ever. Both Amari Stoudemire and Houston spent 8 years on previous teams before receiving these massive deals. The Knicks believed they found their next Patrick Ewing in Allen Houston. The Knicks also traded for Eddie Curry, who was going broke and struggling to stay fit. In this trade, the Knicks gave up 2 lottery picks along with a pair of second rounders. Curry's $56 million deal went on to hold the Knicks back for 6 years straight. He only appeared in 10 games in his last 3 seasons with the Knicks and was still able to make $19 million. The Bulls got the best of that trade, no doubt, and once again, the Knicks missed out on picks that eventually turned into future All-Stars LaMarcus Aldridge and Joakim Noah. The Knicks ended up with Joakim Noah later on in his career, giving him a $72 million contract way out of his prime and with knee injuries. They still owed him $38 million upon his release from the team. Phil Jackson was then hired by the Knicks back in March 2014 as head of president of operations. The Knicks believed bringing him in would create a championship culture, but instead it created a soap opera on Broadway. Jackson's relationship deteriorated with Carmelo Anthony. Phil Jackson even went as far as reaching out to James Dolan to buy out the remaining $54 million on Anthony's contract. You see, what most people don't know is that Michael Jordan almost signed with the Knicks in 1996. Heading into the summer of 1996, New York had $12 million in cap space and they were down to offer it to Michael Jordan. But MJ's agent wanted an extra $15 million so Jordan would become the spokesperson of the ITT Sheraton Hotel. The deal was put together worth $25 million for MJ to join the Knicks, and the Bulls had 1 hour to beat a $25 million offer from the Knicks or MJ was going to sign with New York. Jordan would have been paired up with superstar Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing lost 5 straight series to Jordan and had the chance to play with him to win a championship. However, as usual, the Knicks striked out and Jordan will go on to play 2 more seasons with the Bulls, winning his 5th and 6th championship titles. LeBron James planned on signing with the Knicks in 2010 until that disaster meeting with James Dolan. Dolan was doing Dolan things and they ain't have anything prepared at the meeting.
The sort of ringmaster, whatever you would call him, would come out and he would go into town and he'd, try and control them all in to come see the show and pay a dime. And he made a big noise and that was called a ballyhoo. And so I am now going to make a ballyhoo for you.
It was reported Dolan handed out copies of his CDs during free agent meetings that summer. Yeah, ain't nobody want to listen to that trash shit, sir. LeBron James ended up joining Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh in Miami during the decision and winning 2 championships. Once again, the Knicks was left out of all the fun. Now, in 2020, the Knicks continue to be a dumpster fire and a laughingstock of an organization.
This guy, security guy, this comes from the top. He says, Mr. Lee, you have to leave Madison Square Garden. They wanted me to leave the garden, walk outside, out to 33rd Street, Employers, where I came from, walk outside, and come back on 31st Street. So at halftime, Dolan comes over to me and says, we need to talk. I said, talk about what? We need to talk. I said, Mr. Dolan, I don't want to talk about nothing. I've been coming through this entrance for 28 years.
Spike Lee has reportedly spent $10 million on Knicks tickets. Spike Lee said he would be done attending Knicks games for the rest of that year, and the betting odds came right out.
Right now, everybody looking over there. Apparently, there's a
Charles Oakley over there, Mike.
Fight in the stands. Charles Oakley is involved in something. They need security in a big way. Security is there. Oakley now being taken off. And this is an ugly thing to see about a guy who played here for over 10 years.
After losing the big gamble, the Knicks will have to continue to develop their young guys, deal with their grumpy owner, and settle for unnecessary gambles and mediocrity. The Knicks have some promising guys in R.J. Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. However, the Knicks lack talent across their team. They just recently hired head coach Tom Thibodeau to a 5-year deal. I like the move because Tom Thibodeau has coached great teams in the past, like the 2011 Bulls team that went 62-20. He also led the Timberwolves to the playoffs for the first time in many years. He's a defensive-minded coach who would want to get the best out of his young players. NBA veteran David West slammed the Knicks hire of Coach Tibbs. He went on a tweeting rant wanting these young guys to run for the hills. David West, I think Tom Thibodeau should be the one running for the hills. Phil Jackson couldn't save the Knicks. Coach Mike D'Antoni, who's one of the best offensive minds in the league, couldn't do well with the Knicks. David Fizdale, who received praise from LeBron James, couldn't succeed with the Knicks. And if I'm being honest, Coach Thibodeau won't either, because the Knicks are a dumpster fire of an organization. By the time the Knicks become relevant for their winning ways again, we all be abducted by aliens. Ladies and gentlemen, it's good to gamble if you're not the Knicks.
You know what makes me happy? The Warriors. Kyrie and KD went to Brooklyn. Where did KD come from? The Warriors. The Warriors from Coney Island make me happy. Let's take a trip across the bridge and let's break it down.